Ross, my friend,
Hello, Miss Amy.
we're finally here.
We are.
So, Ross, I think everyone needs to know that we have a big history with this show.
I would say yes. It's probably around 3 years now, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you want to walk our viewers through that, our listeners? Because people don't understand how hard it is to actually bring a docuseries to life.
Well, for the most part, this has been, since I have these home videos that Paramount has licensed from me, this has really been taking place from the beginning when Jordan wrote his book. He caught me for a loop as far as putting my name in it and mentioning me and describing things that really never happened. And it's ever since that, it's taken a toll on me. And then all of a sudden I hear a movie is coming out and then it doesn't. And then 2 years later, the movie actually comes out. I did reach out to Jordan via Messenger and told him that the media has been all over me for my videos. And he messaged me back and basically said, I want them. But when I told his assistant that I want money, he basically reached back out to me and said, take your videos, shove them up your ass, and lose my number. So that was the beginning of round two. So we met and I showed you my videos. And to this day, I'll never forget your reaction, but you went, oh my God, priceless. If I'm correct, you had already been in touch with your very close friend, BJ, who's been with you for over 20 years. You started his career. And BJ had told you that he was in touch with Jason Leopold, who works for Bloomberg and does the FOIA files, which is the Freedom of Information Act. And he sues the government. Jason's a gem. I love him to death. He's a brother now to me. And 2 and 2 came together. And my videos, Jason's FBI files on Jordan, I think he has 15,000 pages. And here we are.
And it's been years of this. So when people say, I have an idea for a show, or I think I can sell this, it's really hard. I see this incredible treasure trove of not only videos, but photos. And you're telling me that those videos were in your basement for 30 years. They were in your basement for 30 years. But it's so interesting to me because in the 90s, some of us had camcorders, right? And
I
we
was
would
one of them.
tape our friends and do that. But one, why were you taping what you were doing? And two, did you have any idea? I mean, I don't know how you could have, but when you were taping them, was it just like, hey, we're hanging out, this is fun?
Basically what happened is in 1991, my ex and I ran into Jordan. I was going to a Hampton Share meeting in Manhattan at Canistell's, which was like the happening place. I think it was on 17th and Park Avenue South. We were meeting all of our buddies there to discuss the share house for that summer. And when we walked in the front door, first of all, my ex told me that Jordan was doing extremely well and he was driving a white Ferrari Testarossa. So as we pulled up to Canistell's, right across the street was Cafe Iguana, which was another big hangout. And at the hydrant, the fire hydrant, was a white Ferrari Testarossa. So we looked at each other. I'm like, how many people have a white Ferrari Testarossa unless you're in Miami Vice? The story goes, as soon as we walked in the door at the first table, now we were meeting all our friends in the back, the first table was Jordan Nadine. Now, I hadn't seen Jordan in a long time. His wife, Denise, I had known prior to Jordan even meeting her, and she was a sweetheart of a girl. And I see Jordan and this blonde, and all of a sudden he yells out, Ross? And the rest is history. Like, we walked over to his table. We were getting married 3 weeks from then. They came to our wedding. We went to their wedding. I was at his bachelor party, and we were inseparable for the most part for like 7 or 8 years.
When did you decide to take out that video recorder?
So we had our child in 1994. Prior to that, I had taken some videos in the Hamptons because we had share houses. We had a lot of fun. I still have those videos today. But, when you have a child, you decide to start filming things. And then once Jordan and we got together and started going into the Hampton house, I would video. And then all of a sudden he was chartering yachts. And again, I started living the lifestyle of the rich and famous. I felt like a rock star. And why not film these things? The views, whether we were in St. Bart's or Nevis, landing in a volcano in St. Kitts. how can I not videotape? Because I'm all about memories. And the only way, memories leave your brain and you can't really tell people the real experience that you live, but video says it all.
Well, yeah. And now everyone has phones, but remember back then,
There was none.
nothing, no
Nothing.
social media, no phones. So there were a lot of us, me included. I have videos. Actually, Barbie, her aunt, is on all of my videos, spring break, everything we did. So I get it.
Right.
But it's fascinating to me that you held on to those. And then 30 years later, here we are. You and I then combined forces to create this docuseries together, and we first we're with Legendary, and then then Legendary brings it to Maxine, and everyone has been such great partners in creating this. But it's really been an uphill battle because most of the people, if not all of the people that I talk to, have a deep level of trauma around this story.
For the most part, as much as we hung out, the four of us, I was pretty much in the mid-90s Jordan's babysitter, protector, because he would get so wasted that people would try to take advantage of him. So I was there. I was the guy. And I was like one of the few that was at that time was not doing drugs for reasons to be discussed at another time. But I went through a lot, did party, did have great times, did eat really great food, did travel the world. But there was a balance. And as far as the friendship went, yeah, we were friends, but it was work. It was a lot of work at times.
You were on the boat. So this is your opportunity to actually walk us through that story, because that in the docuseries, of course, we don't have time to go through that. So why don't you tell me about the boat, Ross?
Let's start in the beginning. Basically, what Jordan did a lot of times were he would just say, we're going on vacation. And fortunately, I owned my own printing company. And back in the day, I did printing for the nightclubs and the promoters. And then when I ran into Jordan, I became the printer of all the brokerage firms. I did very well for myself. And ultimately, what happened, we were at Jordan's house in Old Brookville. And I think it was like a Friday night. And Jordan turns around and goes, we're going on a road trip. Like, okay, we're taking the yacht. It's in Cannes Film Festival right now. I think Oprah Winfrey is on it for 2 weeks, and there's a 1-week window for us to go, and we're going to go to Sardinia. I've never been to Europe at that time. I didn't even know what Sardinia was. I figured obviously it was an Italian island or something, but that's how it all started out. We ended up going back to Jordan's house on Wednesday of the following week, and we were supposed to leave on Friday. And Jordan only wanted to fly private. Now, there were 8 guests, including Jordan and Nadine, and our luggage. And to get a private jet, Learjet, to hold 8 of us plus the luggage, which was probably equivalent to like another 8 people, because Nadine and my ex had major. So that wasn't happening. So Nadine came into Jordan's office in the house and said to us, Jordan, I can't get a private jet. We're going to have to fly commercial. Yeah, commercial flying, first class was not the end of the world, but that's what he had to do. At that point, Mark had left Rome and went to Sardinia.
Mark was the captain of
the yacht, right. Mark was the captain. He was a pilot. He was the helicopter pilot. He taught me how to scuba dive. Mark was a man of many traits. Jordan said to Nadine, the captain, Mark, was already in Sardinia. And when the yacht gets there, whether it's for us or for any guests that are chartering, it's a whole day for the crew of 11 to strip down the yacht of all the toys, go into the ocean. They scrub every square inch of the yacht and they get it ready for the guests. So Mark had already done that. Now we were flying out on Friday. So Jordan said to Nadine, get Mark on the phone and tell him if he's not in Rome when we arrive on Friday night, he needs a new job. So Nadine relayed the message, and the next thing you know, Friday night, we were at the airport and we flew to Rome, where we were greeted by some of the crew members, and we took a van down to the marina. I think it was like an hour ride down to the marina, and we pulled up and there was the yacht and many others in the harbor. If I remember correctly, it was around 11 o'clock in the morning. It was absolutely beautiful out. And again, I've never been to Europe. The sun was shining. And the first thing we did, we got out of the van and we walked over, and Mark was on the gangplank, and Jordan goes, "Hey, Mark, great to see you." And Mark addresses all of us, and then Mark turns around verbatim and says, "Jordan, the ride over from Sardinia back to Rome last night was brutal. There's a freak storm in the Mediterranean. I suggest you guys stay the day and we'll leave tonight and you'll wake up in the morning." I was ecstatic saying, "Oh my God, I'm going to see the Colosseum. I'm going to see the things I've never seen before. We have all day to tour." And Jordan's exact words were, "Fuck you, Mark. We're leaving now. I am on a lewd high. I'm coming down. I just need to." And the rest is basically history. We got on the yacht. We all went downstairs and changed. Jordan and I proceeded to go up to the upper deck where there was a huge lounge couch. I was so like hungover from the flight over, and I just needed like a power nap. So I laid down. I remember Jordan saying exactly to one of the female crew members, "Bring me a Bloody Mary until I can't speak anymore, until I can't ask you anymore." And I shut my eyes and I got into this like realm sleep. I never fell asleep, but I was in this much needed coma sleep. And I heard the crew member come up to and go, "Mr. Belfort, here's your drink." And I heard it a few times, and about an hour and a half had passed by. And all of a sudden, I'm laying there. Jordan's, I guess, laying there also. And the crew member comes up again and goes, "Mr. Belfort." And as she says those words, the three of us were doused by water. Now, mind you, we're 20-something feet up on the top of the yacht. And how is this water? And I open my eyes and I see the crew member go flying, and she grabs onto the handrail. We're covered. I mean, there's water everywhere. And like, what's going on? And we ended up crawling down the stairs and going to the main salon where everyone's like flipping out. What just happened? What just happened? So we got hit by like a 30, 40-foot wave. And now the waves were constant and we're getting battered. And then about 45 minutes later, this rogue wave, and there's different variations, whether it was 90 feet, 70 feet, whatever it was, it came over the yacht. And if anybody saw the movie, The Perfect Storm, it's exactly what happened. And it really did a number on us. The first thing that happened was the front of the yacht was a Fed ship, and it was a big hatch that went down to the galley and the crew's quarters. It was ripped off the yacht. So now all these little waves are coming over the bow, and they're going down into the crew's quarters and the galley, and we're taking on water. Of course, they have pumps, and they're trying to pump out the water, but they can't pump it out fast enough. So we started what is called submarining. Now, if you know anything about boats, when you're in waves, you go through them, you ride them up and down, you ride them up and down. That's the way to go, because if you turn sideways, it could roll you over. Well, as we're trying to ride them up, we were so front heavy because of the water coming in, we started submarining. So we're going through these 30, 40-foot waves, and we're getting crushed. So with that, Jordan stayed with the captain. Rob was up with the captain. We were on the main salon. The boat was soaking wet inside. The dishes were gone. The pictures, everything it was just imagined. It was beyond trashed. And we hung out, and we're like flipping out and not knowing what to do. And about an hour later, 3 female crew members were hanging out with us, and they had radios. And I heard Captain Mark put in a mayday call to Rome Coast Guard. And that came over the crew members' walkie-talkies. So we knew that something was going to be done, because we were really in bad shape at that point. While we're waiting for them to come, we lost an engine. So now all of a sudden, we can't go directly through these big waves. And the boat listed, and it listed on its side to the point where all the windows on the side of the boat were now underwater. And I just prayed to my dad, who had passed away a year earlier, prayed to God, because my daughter is home and she's a year and a half old with my mom. She was going to be an orphan, and we're done. And at that point, I thought the boat was sinking. Ultimately, the engine was started back up, and we righted the boat. The water from the sides cleared. And at that point, I heard over their radio, Rome Coast Guard saying, "I understand you have a helicopter on the yacht. You need to roll it off the yacht so we have a platform to send down a basket. So the next thing you know, Jordan comes flying down into the main salon and goes, Ross, get your camera. We're rolling the helicopter off the yacht. And I looked at him. Mind you, I was so seasick at this point.
Wait, he told you to get your camera?
He told me to get my video camera and video us throwing the helicopter off the yacht. Mind you, I did not get my camera. I went upstairs with Rob and Jordan and the crew members. And again, we were getting, the waves were crazy. We're holding on for dear life. There was a bar on the side, a railing on the side of the yacht that was next to the helicopter. They pushed down the railing. As soon as Mark unstrapped the helicopter, he called to the first mate who was steering the boat and said, 20 degrees hard right. And the helicopter literally just rolled off the yacht, went into the water, and that was the end of that.
At this point, first of all, you're petrified. You're afraid for your life. There's like 30 to 40 foot waves, even higher. There's water in the boat. You just rolled a helicopter into the ocean. Where are you, Ross? What's happening?
I'm going to answer the question that everybody to this day has asked 1,000 times. Why didn't you use the helicopter to be rescued? Well, ultimately, the captain never leaves his ship. The captain was the pilot of the helicopter. So we go back to the main salon, and he goes back up with the captain, and now we're waiting for the Coast Guard. And about, half hour later, we hear a very loud helicopter. It happened to be a twin prop helicopter, and we hear it hovering over the yacht. They called down for Nadine to be the first one to be rescued. So we're on the main salon. There's a staircase that goes up to the upper deck, and Nadine goes up to that upper deck, opens up the door, and now time stood still. And she was up there for, I think, like 5 to 7 minutes. It felt like an hour, and we're waiting for the next person to be called. And unfortunately, the next person was Nadine coming back down those stairs and us hearing the helicopter leave. Reason being is because we were going up and down and the helicopter was in a wind and they were going up and down this way. If they would have dropped the basket or anything and they intertwined with the yacht, we would have all died because the helicopter would come crashing down. So they left us. So now we're 5 hours into this journey. We have no rescue. We're on our own. But true story, if Mayday goes out on any boat, any boats within a 100-mile radius come to your aid. So at that point, we had oil tankers, we had cruise ships, we had big boats that were trying to help block the waves from us. Time keeps going on. We're in the main salon. Jordan's upstairs having the fucking time of his life, eating Quaaludes while we're all dying. And the engineer of the yacht was new to the yacht. We had just met him, and his name was Ed. And he comes into the main salon and says to 6 of us, we're going to the back of the yacht. We're going to throw off a lifeboat, and we're going to do that. And I'm looking, and next thing you know, we're walking to the back of the yacht. When we opened up the back door, I also left out that Jordan had a 33-foot Intrepid dive boat that we pulled behind the yacht. Well, when we got to the back of the yacht, the dive boat was gone. The swim platform that hydraulically went down was missing. All the furniture was gone. We opened up that door, and we're like, oh my God. And all we saw was blue waves behind us. So here's this engineer standing with this, what looked like a depth charge. I mean, it was like a barrel, and that's an inflatable boat that turns into a teepee. So when you get into it, you're completely covered. And so he takes this thing and throws it off the yacht, and it inflates and goes, poof, disappears. I said to the guests on the boat, I said, back inside, this is not happening. And we went back into the main salon. And besides us being white from being seasick and scared to death that we were dying, what the fuck was that all about?
No, that's insane.
It was insane. So I get this brainstorm. So I'm like MacGyver, I'm good with things. And I'm looking, and Nadine had detailed the yacht. The window treatments had ropes through them. All of a sudden, I started grabbing the window treatments, and the rest of them were looking at me, what are you doing? I said, just get all the window treatments off the yacht. Everybody started grabbing them, and each window had like a 3-foot length of rope. I tied them all together and made loops on every few feet. And they're like, I said, if we sink, we all stay together. And that was like our safety net. to have that rope to all hold on to. And fortunately, thank God, that didn't happen. So now skipping ahead, so the night's going on.
But wait, this is like 7-8 hours.
This is right. So now it's getting dark out, and we're in the middle of the Mediterranean, still getting abused. The yacht is absolutely trashed. And now we're just watching the clock tick, like, what the fuck is happening to us? We're going to die. And we did list one more time. The boat went over and the water hit the portholes, and like, we just kept praying to God. We had nothing else to do.
But what was your mental state at that time? Or were you just, your adrenaline was going so fast that it was just, you couldn't even feel anything?
Mentally, I was so seasick. I mean, I had nothing in me, but I was white. I was freezing cold, as were everybody else around me. My mental state was what any normal human being would be. We're dying. We were dying. We're in the Mediterranean. It's now getting dark out. And we're on a boat that's like literally destroyed. Now skip ahead to 5:30 in the morning, which is like a full 18 hours of us going through this chaotic drama. Rob is down in the main salon with us. Jordan's up with the captain. And all of a sudden you hear in the distance what sounds to be a helicopter. The next thing you know, there's a spotlight on one of the doors and you hear the helicopter hovering. So Rob starts walking over to the door and goes to open it. And the girl starts screaming, "Rob, don't open the door. Don't open the door." Like that the water's going to come flowing into the yacht. Well, anyway, Rob opens the door. And the youth of today is not going to understand this joke, but it's classic. Back in the day, commercial for Grey Poupon mustard, which I think everybody knows a Grey Poupon mustard. Back in the day, you guy would be driving in his car, he'd come up to a light, and someone next to him would go, "Excuse me, do you have any Grey Poupon mustard?" And it was an ongoing thing, and they did it in different variables. So all of a sudden, Rob's leaning out the door, and the spotlight's on him. It's like hard. You got to visualize this. The spotlight from the helicopter's on him. He's leaning out the door, and he freezes, and his head's looking up, and we're all like, "Rob, what are you doing? Rob, what are you doing?" And he comes back in slow motion and closes the door, and like, "Rob, what happened?" And he nonchalantly turns to all of us and goes, "The pilot asked me if I had any Grey Poupon mustard." So, of course, we had to let out a chuckle. And knowing that there's a helicopter there was definitely some sign of relief. So with that, the helicopter hovers over the yacht. One at a time, they called for the 4 women who were my ex, Nadine, Ophelia, and Rob's girlfriend at the time, Shelly. I went up to the main bridge with Jordan, Rob, and the captain. And the girls, one at a time, went to the back of the yacht, and you heard the helicopter hovering. And the next, they called for the next girl. I think it was Nadine, then Bonnie. The 4 of them went. So the chopper is over the yacht. I'm looking out the front, and there was a cruise ship that happened to be blocking our waves to just give us some stability to get rescued. And now the cruise ship, the yacht was here, and the cruise ship was like, it was at the tail end of the cruise ship. And you'll understand where I'm going with this. One of the crew members comes back to the bridge and says, "Mark, there's room for one more." So Jordan instantly says, "Mark, send one of the girls, one of the crew members." And Mark says, "No, Ross, go take care of the women." Honestly, Jordan made me out to be this guy that just needed to get out of there. And it's the furthest thing from the truth, but I had no questions asked. Didn't have to ask me twice. I proceeded to go to the back of the yacht, where when I got there, I saw a helicopter about 100 feet hovering over the yacht. We're on the back deck where all the furniture was. It's no longer there. And there's a rope hanging with an orange harness. The crew member yells, "You get your arms in the harness." And I put I holding onto the rope. I get my left arm under the harness and get it under my arm. And as I'm doing my right, I get catapulted off the yacht. People are going to think I'm making this up. This is my hand to God. This is exactly what happened. The cruise ship had passed us, and the yacht started to do this. And the helicopter figured I was in. They didn't want to be entangled in the yacht because they'll be pulled down. They pulled me off, and I go flying. And I'm grabbing on the rope, and I'm struggling. And I finally get the harness under both arms, and I'm holding on to this. And within 3 seconds, I'm going this way, and I'm heading right towards the tail rotor. And I'm like, I'm dead. I'm dead. How is this happening to me? And I'm heading towards the tail rotor, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I start to sway the other way and didn't realize that the Italian naval seal, was wenching me up as this is happening. So I did one rotation towards the tail rotor that almost killed me, one the other way, and the next thing I know, I'm at his legs, looking at him. He's sitting, his legs are off the helicopter, and he's looking at me. His visor is up. The guy was as white as I was after 18 hours of hell. He realized how close we were all to dying. So I hit the rotor, the chopper goes down onto the yacht, and God only knows what happens. So he pulls me in, and there are the four women shivering and shaking, and I get on the helicopter, and that crew member goes to the pilot in Italian and tells him what happened, and the pilot's like, oh my God. Then they proceeded to bring us to the Italian naval ship that was on its way to Bosnia on a peacekeeping mission, which, again, you can't make this up. We land on the ship, and the five of us get off, and there were other helicopters going to pick up the rest of the crew. We land on the ship, and they were nothing but the most amazing sailors, the Italian Navy. Kudos to them. They were incredible because not only did they just rescue us, now they're giving us showers, feeding us. They were amazing. When the rest of the crew came over, and now it's all of us, they showered, we ate. They gave us a tour, and this naval ship was an amphibious naval ship. It was called the San Giorgio. And they brought us around the ship. And when they brought us to the inner side of the ship, it had jeeps and tanks. And they were going on a peacekeeping mission to Bosnia. It held boats and landing craft, which were not there because they were doing the landing. Then they proceeded to bring us up to the captain. And at that point, we're all hanging out, and the captain turns in broken English and says, right here, 1,000 meter, right here. And one of the crew members who spoke English said, we're right over where the yacht sank, and it's 3,000 feet below us. We sank in 3,000 feet of water. From that point on, they continued towards Sardinia. We were only like 10 miles off Sardinia, and they put us in a launch boat, which there's video of the actual rescue.
It's on YouTube.
On YouTube and in many other places. I've posted about it. They put us in this launch boat, and they brought us to Obbia, which is a part of Sardinia where there happens to be a police station, and we were all interviewed, and all that took place. More importantly, we were on land. I was no longer shaking and flipping out. And from that point, since we didn't have the yacht to stay on, it vanished. We ended up getting rooms in the Cala di Volpe, which is like the top hotel in Sardinia. Jordan, Nadine, Bonnie, and I shared the presidential suite. We had our own pool. And the best part of the story is Jordan said, we're all going to celebrate. It was 19 of us, the crew and us. And we're all going out for dinner tonight. But the sad thing is we lost all our belongings. The clothes that we're wearing is all we have. So Jordan says, go into town. Here's my Amex. Get whatever you need. We go and have dinner, and here comes these crew members that you've only seen in their shorts and their Nadine shirt are wearing blue Versace sport jackets. And it was absolutely incredible. And we had dinner, and we enjoyed, for the most part, Sardinia for 5 days. When it was time to leave, we went back to Obbia where this little airport was, and Jordan tells a story about this little midget guy who was a little guy that spoke Italian. He was running the airport. The airport was the size of I can't even tell you. It was minuscule. So we're waiting for what Jordan was told. Bobby Brennan, who is one of the first inventors of the penny stock frauds, he had his private jet in Europe. And Jordan had gotten in touch with him, and Bobby said he's sending his jet to get us. Great. So we're sitting, we're waiting, and and then all of a sudden this little guy comes over and goes, Mr. Belfort, and he hands him it was a fax. And on the fax it said the plane was taking off out of Rome, and it hit a seagull and they had to emergency land. So he describes that his plane crashed and burned, but the true story is it was Bobby Brennan's plane and it had to make an emergency landing. So now we have no plane. So we had to fly commercial, which was a 1-hour trip from Sardinia back to Rome. And Jordan's having a meltdown. And I can't believe we have to do this, but we had to do it. And who's on the plane with us was Tracy Ullman, who I never met before. And she's like, "You're the guy." And she was like talking to us and like blown away that we had just lived this experience. So we finally make it back to Europe. So we're in Rome and we're taking the Concorde out of England. So how do we get to England? We took the Bullet Express or whatever you want to do. And we went through the countryside. So we get to England and the Concorde was for the next following morning. And now, lo and behold, we're in London and we're by where all the hotels are. Jordan can't get a room anywhere. And reason being, the Prince's Trust concert was in the area. And the Who were playing, the Stones were playing, and everybody, all the hotel rooms were basically taken up. But we finally ended up getting rooms for all of us. We're standing on a balcony. I'm listening to the Who in the background, like flipping out, like, what are the odds? And then we all went out for fish and chips, came back, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, and took the Concorde back to New York.
It's an incredible story because you can't believe it. You can't believe it's true. But every person I talk to who was on that boat to this day suffers tremendous trauma.
100%.
And there's like layers to it. Sometimes when you're dealing with a cult of personality, it's not sometimes, most of the time when you're dealing with a cult of personality, the collateral damage just, like I always say, how many good years did you have, right? Did you have a few good years? Well, those few good years, was it worth the decades that it permeated your soul and your life and your choices and your trauma?
No, absolutely not.
You were there for also other scenes, like when he fell down the stairs at the country club. And even in the docuseries, we see you go to the Brookville Country Club and you walk us through that. It just seemed that you were kind of a fixer.
Well, what happened was we were living in Hewlett when we ran into him in 1991, and I owned an apartment in Hewlett. And when he bought the house in Old Brookville, he wanted Bonnie and I to be close to him. He actually gave us down payment for a house in Jericho in the Hunt Club. It was a gated community, so we were near him. So things that unfolded, especially like with the car scene, when that happened, Nadine called me. I was at the house in 5 minutes. So our relationships, Bonnie and Nadine were close. They spoke every day. Jordan and I, not as much, but we did things. Our relationship, our bond was there. Again, my role was to pretty much babysit him and watch him and make sure he wasn't in trouble. And yeah, that's the gist of it.
Why was it important for you to have your videos out there and also have a story told from your perspective and other people's perspective?
I just felt it was time, since I did have these videos, to show the lifestyle that he lived, as we did as well as friends. And at the time, I didn't know what Stratton Oakmont was all about. I didn't care. I was making so much money printing for him and the other firms. I never pried into what they were doing. I knew things were a little fugazi, but never really, I didn't want to know. It was just, living all that and dealing with it. I thought it was time to get these videos out there and show people. I have a few of them where he's actually looted and you could see him falling down and stuff like that. But the lifestyle, it's amazing.
And what was your favorite part about doing the docuseries?
We got a lot of people together that I haven't seen in over 30 years, and it's pretty wild.
It is. Well, Ross, we did it. Cheers.
Yes, we did, Amy. And next time it's going to be tequila.
Tequila. We deserve it.
We deserve a lot.
Years and years and years.